We put 3 questions together, and candidates, again, you're going to get a minute and a half to answer. You don't have to take the full minute and a half, it's okay. And I'll give you the 30-second for rebuttal time as well. One questioner, we have 2 questions about specific areas. One is 96th and Keystone, and if elected mayor or re-elected mayor, what do you propose to do with that particular intersection? Another question is about Gray Road, both at 116th and 126th. And are there plans for roundabouts there? And if so, will that be necessary to incur debt to build those roundabouts if there are plans? And then the other part of the question is, are we looking at any kind of alternative transportation due to energy costs? So there's three really parts of the question. Like what kind of planning for roundabouts are planned on 116th and 126th of Gray Road? 96th and Keystone intersection, what's going to happen with that? And do we have any kind of alternative transportation plans, I think, other than cars? I think the questioner probably wants. So you have a minute and a half to put those together. You can do it, it's okay. And we'll start with Mr. Spiegelman.
I figured that. Roundabouts are liked by a lot of people here at Carmel. I found that out in 10 months of campaigning. But before we start building up on our 70 roundabouts that are currently in operation, many of them not even understandable given the fact that they're 3-way roundabouts rather than the typical 4-way. I think that we have to get our financial house in order. We have a lot of debt here, folks. We can't just simply borrow without any kind of idea of how we're going to pay it back. Should the economic recession continue, as it very well might be, as many economists are predicting a double dip, we could find ourselves in real trouble as our revenues go down. And they went down this year, 16 or 17% less in COET revenue, and a 1% decrease in our assessed valuation. So in respect to roundabouts, there could be very good things in the appropriate places, including on Gray Road. We're going to have to afford them first. We have to afford a lot of things. As far as the other questions are concerned, I have absolutely no idea what they are, since they seem to be bunched together. But the fact of the matter is that that's the bottom line. We have to understand that under the skin of our buildings, we have a lot of financial problems that the mayor hasn't been telling us about. Now is the time to deal with it with that one word, conservatism.
I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Spiegelman. Mr. Brainerd.
First, 96 in Keystone, we have a plan that our city engineers worked very hard on. It's an expensive plan, as all road projects are expensive. The cost is truly astounding to do any sort of road work these days. But the plan calls for really what we've done at the other intersections, but reversing it, because there's so many underground utilities in the ground, we didn't want to take Keystone under, we wanted to take it over 96th Street, and then still have the roundabouts at the end of the teardrop interchange, just flip the design. We've applied for federal funding. We pay 18.5 cents in every gallon of gas in what's called the Federal Highway Trust Fund. Every 5 or 6 years, the federal Congress gets around to allocating some of that for specific projects. That time is on us, and I've been working with the folks in Washington about that. We've had great success in the past, and we hope to in the future on funding some of that. About half that money comes to us in a formula that comes to Central Indiana. The other half is based on whether we go and ask for it or not. And so we're working on both fronts for that one, as well as 116th and Gray, which is one of our highest accident stop. We look at we've done a study to see where the most dangerous stoplight intersections are. I think it's good value. We've managed to get most insurance rates, parking and casualty rates lower in these zip codes because we've lowered our injury accident rate almost 65% with our roundabout program, and that saves people money too. There's a lot of various funding sources, and we'll continue to look at that. I don't have time to talk about trains. She's holding up the stop sign.
Maybe we can get to another 30-second rebuttal, so we'll try. Mr. Asatero.
First of all, based on a report from the city engineer, the design for 96 and Keystone is nearly nearly at 100%. Whether we can afford that project or not remains to be seen. We need to get all the financial information on one sheet of paper and see where we really stand and see where the economy goes. Obviously, roundabouts have worked well in our city in most locations, and not so well in some others where you have some heavy traffic. So we need to continue to improve this, the flow of traffic in our city. And it looks like roundabouts do work in most locations. In regard to transportation, we need transportation to move people to Carmel and from Carmel. And we need to work jointly with the entire Indianapolis metropolitan community to make that happen. And it's very costly. Public transportation is very costly, so we'll have to look at that. But in the meantime, we need to look at some low-cost, short-term fixes in regard to that. And finally, Mr. Spiegelman said he's been a Republican his whole life. I think I remember he ran for mayor last time as an independent and lost by almost 7,000 votes. So, yeah, you have to evaluate based on what it is. And the reason I know a lot about Mr. Spiegelman, because him and I were very close friends for a while, so about 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asatero. Mr. Spiegelman.
And that friendship ended on June 16th, 2010. One of my most favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan, used to say at a debate, this is to Mayor Brainerd, well, there he goes again. He is willing to spend any kind of money possible that he could find or borrow or lease or collateralize to build his projects. He has absolutely no boundaries when it comes to borrowing and spending. Is this the kind of mayor that you want for another 4 years? There he is. Vote for him at your own risk.
Thank you, Mr. Spiegelman. Mr. Brainerd.
It may be appropriate to point out at this time that one of the things I instituted when I became mayor was a fiscal plan, prepared by accountants. And what it does, allows us to model. Of course, we have to make some assumptions like any business does that puts together a fiscal plan. But we've used this plan for the last 16 years to hold our taxes steady. We'll be able to continue to do that. We're a big city. We have lots of revenue. We have debt because we're growing. But we have done so very carefully and in such a way that taxes won't go up now or in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Brainerd. Mr. Asatero.
At the last debate, Mayor Brainerd promised us that taxes will not go up in the next 20 years. And I think there's probably only one person that could make that prediction, and I'm not sure if they would know what would happen. But I think it's important in the crisis, which we are. We are at a crisis point. We're operating the city like a city of 20,000 when we have 80,000 residents. We don't live in Disneyland. We can't keep spending money we don't have and putting it on a credit card.
Thank you, Mr. Asatero.